It's not every day Chip Kelly is surprised by something he sees on film.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a hump day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, here on Wednesday, September 18th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Chip Kelly has been around for a long time. He coached Ryan Day in college. He has coached in both college and the NFL and in the college football level. And so when you think Chip Kelly, you think great offensive mind. And when you have that thing said about you, you've had the ability to see a lot of great football players and some guys that are really talented. And when you watch film, you might be thinking, nothing I'm going to see is going to surprise me. I've seen everything. Even though players now are different than they were 20 years ago, one thing is true: there's talented players in every decade. Chip Kelly was surprised by some of the things he saw when watching film of one of the players that he is currently coaching at Ohio State. It's Quinton Judkins, the Ole Miss transfer. And his ability, the size, the speed, how rare of a build he is, and how rare his skill set is put together with this build, that kind of surprised Chip Kelly when Chip Kelly was watching highlights of Judkins in the offseason. And I think that's one of the things that not only surprised Chip Kelly when he saw it, but he said, oh, he's that kind of guy? I know how to use him. We already got Henderson. He's a really good back. You put these two guys together, and they'll be a really good, well-oiled machine. And now we've only played 2 games, and so we don't truly know and understand how elite or efficient or lethal, that's a better word, lethal this duo can be. But we think we have a good handle on it so far. We think we can see and kind of guess what they can be. Well, Chip Kelly didn't really hold back with talking about Judkins and his size and his physicality and his athleticism and that combo that he possesses. Because I think when he saw Judkins, he's like, oh, he's a little rare. We see what Henderson is, and these two guys together, man, no one's going to be able to stop them. Here's Kelly on Judkins' quote: I had really just watched highlights of him in terms of what he did for Ole Miss. He's a tough, physical runner. He's got great feet and vision for someone his size. It's really surprising sometimes, end quote. And that's not something that you would say just about anyone. You say that not only when you've been around for a while, but you realize that the individual you're watching is a little bit different. Here is what Kelly had to say about TreVeyon Henderson. Quote, just his work ethic. He's a guy who's out there every single day, and he's only one speed. He's a guy who you never have to talk to about effort. He's an explosive play waiting to happen. I love his physicality when he runs. I love what he's done in pass protection, end quote. TreVeyon Henderson has been a guy that started off his Buckeye career, a 5-star recruit, hyped up. People were saying he's going to be the next big thing, the next great Buckeye running back. He had setbacks. He had injuries. He broke records his freshman year and also had a freshman wall. There were some ups. There have been some downs. And one thing we have seen this year when Henderson's on the field is everything that Kelly said about him. One thing we have seen about Judkins when Judkins is on the field is everything Chip Kelly said about him. I think Henderson's, though, is kind of surprising because, not surprising, it's nice to see. It's great to see. He is running harder than he ever has at Ohio State. Quinton Judkins is running in a way that he complements Henderson's running style and play style so well. In knowing that Henderson has had issues with injuries and pass protection is a premium, is a must for a running back at Ohio State to get on the field. That guy, Henderson, if he keeps it up and keeps playing like this, the only thing he's going to do is push Quinton Judkins. He is going to urge him to get better. He is going to urge him to run harder. And it seems like when they're out there, they're just like, oh, Henderson's out there, got 3 or 4 plays. Oh, okay. He runs hard. Judkins comes in. He says, I want to run harder than you. And then Henderson comes in, I'm going to run harder than Judkins just ran, back and forth and back and forth. And it's not just running without purpose. It's not just running with no vision. It's running with the purpose, running with the vision, and running in a way that the opposition's saying, well, you got the speed. Are you physical? Okay, you got the physicality. Oh, do you have the vision? Oh, are you the total package? And Henderson is showing he has more of the total package right now as a runner than he ever has been at Ohio State. The two-back system we're going to see this year, we've already seen, and we're going to get a better handle on it later on this year, is something that I think is needed. I am normally a person that's, hey, one featured back, keep two guys, but if you got one guy that gets the bulk of the carries, that's cool. If you got a guy that's backing him up, cool, that's great. Normally, I'm not a guy that's saying split it right down the middle, try to make it as even as it can, or maybe there's one game where the speed guy is going to get more runs because the guy who's the power back or the more physical back, the team is better at stopping things between the tackles. Or maybe there's a team that's better at stopping runs on the outside, and they're not as good at stopping things between the tackles, so you're going to flip-flop the order and the guys that are getting the run. I'm not really sure like that's a thing, but there's a real chance they just split that thing down the middle because even though they complement each other so well, Judkins can have speed and get outside. Henderson has speed, but he is a better runner between the tackles than he ever has been at Ohio State. And that's one thing that I love watching it from him is that he's just gotten better and better and better. And when we question his vision, because I've been on here questioning Henderson's vision, what did we see? His vision got better. Oh, what have we done? For 3 years, we were wondering, can he be a physical runner consistently? What has he done? He's bulked up. He has gotten better at running between the tackles. Because I think that's one thing Henderson needed to do really, really bad. I normally don't talk about players when I go to games and see them with my own naked eye and say, oh, that guy's too small, that guy's too big. No, but one thing I saw from Henderson last year, I believe it was last year, game 1 against Indiana, was that Henderson just looked small. Now, part of that could have been he was recovering from an injury. He missed the bowl game, the Cotton Bowl against Missouri. And so, no, that was 2 years ago, not this year. No. Forget the year it was. And I know there was a year that he missed the bowl game. And it was the Cotton Bowl. I forget which game it was. But he missed a game due to an injury. And the next time I saw him, I'm like, oh, you're a little bit smaller than I anticipated, which I understood because he had to recover. But he's bulked up. He's kept his speed. His vision is better. He's a more all-around running back than he ever has been in college. And you get that with Judkins and the two-back system. And Chip Kelly understands it. One of the pros that Kelly sees with the two-back system is if you have two really good ones, it puts a lot of problems on the defense. It's true. The con, you put two running backs in the game at the same time. If they're both going full speed 6-7 plays in a row, now they both need a breather. That's also true. But one thing is, you got 2 ones that aren't going at the same time. One could go 6-7, come out. The other goes 6-7, come out. You're not trying to get that third guy in, a third running back, and people as showed he could play because you got the 1 and 2 that are so fresh and so ready to go out there and battle every single day. There is a Buckeye player that has not battled all year, but it sounds like he'll be ready to roll Saturday against Marshall. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. But we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Gametime is a place that helps you get tickets, helps you save money, and makes your ticket purchasing process very, very easy. Still have the ability for you to get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy. They still got the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. And they also got that Gametime ticket coverage, which means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. We have been waiting and waiting and waiting for the day, the time period that it would be announced that Donovan Jackson will return to Ohio State's starting lineup, just a lineup in general, and that time is now. Ryan Day said Donovan Jackson is, quote, ready to roll, end quote. That's all you needed to hear. Your starting left guard, who will probably get drafted in the upcoming NFL draft, is ready to go. And one thing we know about Donovan Jackson is that he's going to make this offensive line better. An offensive line that has already played very well this offseason. Very well early in the season. Game number 1, game number 2. And all of a sudden, what are you seeing? The offensive line is deeper than many people thought it was going to be at this point in the season. One abnormal luxury or benefit, ain't really a benefit if you're starting being out, but one thing we learned with Donovan Jackson being outside of the lineup was that Austin Servo can play now on this year's offensive line. Because game 1, game 2, started a couple games, didn't play a snap last year. So you're truly wondering, what kind of player is he? Is he ready to go? Is it just because he's out here consistently in game number 1 and he's just getting his feet wet? Will he fall back in game number 2? No, he took a step forward in game number 2. And Donovan Jackson, I believe his presence will help the offensive line take a step forward this year. But when you think about Austin Servo, and I highlight him on purpose, because now the Buckeyes not only have 5 offensive linemen that can play, they got 7 offensive linemen that they know can play right now. Your starting lineup on Saturday, unless there's a setback between now and then, is Simmons at left tackle, Jackson at left guard, McLaughlin at center, Shabola still at right guard. He'll be there moving forward, and then Fryer at right tackle. The guys that can play now, really 8, honestly, because Luke Montgomery played last year as that 6th offensive lineman when they went heavy set. He was just wearing number 41 and be in lineup at the tight end spot. But what do you have? You literally have Carson Hinsman, Austin Servo, and Luke Montgomery. Now, Luke Montgomery was not the best guy last year, but he was your 6th offensive lineman, and everything tells me he will be a guy that'll play better this year. So you truly got 8. If you want to go 7, just knock out Montgomery, cool. You got 7 guys, 7 that have started ball between in games this year and last year, and you know what you get with them. That's unheard. 7 starters on the O-line. Normally, the conversation around the Ohio State, really any offensive line, is, do you have 6 or 7 or 8? And that's a question that you have going into the season. And most teams aren't able to figure that thing out in 2 games. Yes, Carson Hinsman has lost his spot, which is odd because I thought for sure he was going to start this year at right guard. Shabola won that battle. And, hey, man, if you win that battle, stay out there, work hard, keep that thing up, keep improving, and stay on the field. Because if him at 6'6", 327, I believe him and Tyler Williams are the heaviest players on the Ohio State's team. If that's what it is, so be it. And when I hear 6'6", 327, it reminds me of Quinton Nelson, starting left guard for the Indianapolis Colts. Used to play ball at Notre Dame. He's 6'5", 330 playing left guard, and that is not normal. Normally, when I hear 330, I think tackle. It wouldn't shock me if Shabola moves to tackle next year, as that might be his best position for him in the National Football League. But if he balls out this year and he just shows, hey, I am improving, I have gotten my mind right, I've gotten my body right, and he is on all the things right, and he just improves every single day, every single play, you might find a spot where next year he's not moving to right tackle. He is staying at right guard because that's just what he excels at. The thing, and I know I'm looking ahead to next year, bear with me. The thing about next year is Saravelt's going to be here. Hinzman could be gone. Hinzman could say, look, I lost my spot. I don't want to stay here anymore. I know I basically have you going to basically pencil me in to the starting center job next year. I know I understand this, but based off really that Cotton Bowl there may have been more there in that Cotton Bowl decision than people think because you moved, was it Matt Jones? Moved Matt Jones to center last year all of a sudden. They're thinking, one, it was an odd time to do that. And two, it just didn't work. And three, they just stuck with it. I don't know. Maybe that's rubbing Carson has been the wrong way. Yes, one strike last year, two strikes right now, losing his spot. Not really a strike. You just lost it. But maybe he's saying this ain't the spot for me to play ball next year. But if it is, the Buckeyes O-line in a series, in a time when really there's a lot of questions, let's just say Simmons decides to stay and need a 3-year starter at Ohio State. The Buckeyes O-line might not be in bad shape next offseason where when you're losing McLaughlin, you're losing Fryer, you're losing Jackson, all of a sudden you could be looking at a spot where you're saying, well, we lost those guys and we kept our left tackle, got a left guard, got a center, got a right guard. You might be looking to only fill one spot on the offensive line, which is a luxury because honestly, in the offseason, I anticipated and I thought that all 5 guys would be gone, including Hinzman, because I assumed he was going to start this year, be a multi-year starter, and go off to the National Football League. That might not happen. What will happen, just as I mentioned earlier with the running backs and how they will complement each other very well, I think the Buckeyes offensive line might be the most in sync it's been all year this weekend. Now, with this being Jackson's first game playing this year, it would not shock me if the beginning of this game was similar to the beginning of the Akron game for the Buckeyes offense as you're trying to figure things out together because Simmons and Jackson have played together. It started side by side last year. Jackson and McLaughlin only have practice reps together, nothing in a game. And I do think that is very valuable and that matters. So I am going to be looking very closely to see exactly how in the world this goes forward. Because let's just say their chemistry is very clear and they are they're in sync from Jump Street. You might see Ohio State start very fast like it did against Western Michigan. I know the line is Ohio State minus 39.5. The over-under is 51.5. That's via our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook right now. If I'm listening to my gut, I am thinking that Ohio State scores 40-plus points. I'm not saying shutout. I am not saying that Marshall won't score a touchdown. But I do think Ohio State scores 40-plus points with ease. And it wouldn't shock me if they put a 50-burger up there once again. One way that can happen is for the offensive line to be in sync right away. Will it happen? I don't know, but it wouldn't shock me if it happened. One thing that is going to happen is going to dive into a stock watch once again. We did it last week during Improvement Week, and we're having it back once again this week, a few days before the Buckeyes return to the field. This episode is brought to you by Roy. Hey, Ohio State fans, have you heard about Roy? It stands for Return on You, and it's a new platform that lets you, the fans, get involved in NIL like never before by making contributions directly to your favorite players. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal. As you all know, NIL has changed the game for athletes. Roy changes the NIL game for fans. Roy allows fans to directly back their favorite college athletes. With Roy, fans can play a key role in shaping the future of their favorite teams, while athletes maximize their name, image, and likeness potential. When fans contribute to a successful campaign, they receive access to exclusive content from the athlete, such as their announcement decision, behind-the-scenes footage, and other personal reflections, all of which are available only to the fans who supported the athlete. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit joinroy.com for additional details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get the Roy app for iOS or Android and start making an impact on your favorite team. Use referral code Locked On for an opportunity to win $5,000 cash. Visit joinroy.com for more details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get off the sidelines and into the game, NIL game that is, with Roy. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. You know what time it is. It's that time of the week where we dive into our stock watch. And even with the Buckeyes not playing last week, there are reasons for numerous areas of Ohio State's football program to be on the rise. Stock up on Ohio State football being back on TV this coming Saturday. High noon, 12 noon Eastern in Ohio Stadium. The game is on Big Fox. Big Noon is in town. Urban Meyer will be on campus for this game, in the stadium for this game, and I can't wait to watch it. Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson, Jenny Taft will be on the call of this game, and it was weird not having Ohio State football last weekend. My wife and I had plans to spend some time together as a family away from the football, with there not being Ohio State playing that day. Well, the heat got in the way because we didn't want to have our youngster outside in the heat, and so our plans got a little up in the air last weekend. Not this weekend. As I hit the microphone and get a little too excited. Not this Saturday. We know what we are doing at 12 noon. Watching Ohio State football. And I think they're going to blow Marshall out. How bad will they blow them out? I'll unveil my score prediction later on in this week. Stock up on Donovan Jackson, man. I'm so glad he's back on the field. It's never fun. It's never fun when you know a guy is really talented. You know a guy loves the game. You know a guy could make your team better, and he's unfortunately not able to play. It's just not fun when guys can't play in general. It doesn't matter if it's TC Coffey, a walk-on, or a multi-year starter in Donovan Jackson. It's never fun when a guy can't play. And I cannot wait to see Donovan Jackson on the field for the first time this year. And I cannot wait to see what the team does and how the offense looks, specifically the offensive line with Jackson back in the fold. I do think the offensive line will play better, will be in sync. And y'all better watch out for the two-headed monster, because Judkins and Henderson are back on back on Front Street. They're back on full display. And it wouldn't shock me. I want to make this prediction now that I think both guys will score multiple rushing touchdowns on Saturday. Ryan Day praised Marshall's defensive front. I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think it's going to slow down. Those two guys toting the rock and taking multiple trips to pay dirt. Stock up on the team's health. Think about how weird it's been over the past few years where Ohio State has had issues with the injury bug, specifically in the running back room. Dallin Hayden's freshman year, he started against Michigan because the running back room was so depleted that he was the option. He was the guy, and he did great in that game. Last year, Mayan Williams out for the year. I forget the exact year, but TreVeyon Henderson missing a bowl game due to an injury. Think about how many guys over Evan Pryor tore his ACL in the spring game a couple of years ago. So many guys got hurt. So many guys were hit with the injury bug. It's just the running back room. Proctor's been hit with the injury bug. Ransom's been hit with the injury bug multiple times. So many players have been hit with the injury bug at Ohio State over the past few years. And this year, at least so far, things haven't been crazy. Guys have been hurt. Nothing has been, we're not finding where 4 or 5 guys are missing time or they could play this week and they can't play next week because of an injury. You're not finding that. So stock up on the overall team health of Ohio State. Stock down of Michigan State and Ohio State being on Peacock. I understand why. NBC said we're going to put certain games on our streaming platform, and that's it. That's the only place you can watch them. I get it. I understand it. And if you could put Ohio State in a Big Ten matchup on a streaming service, you're going to do it. Like, if you're contractually obligated to do something and Ohio State can do that in a Big Ten matchup, you're going to do it. Ohio State brings eyeballs. Trust me. I'm going to be curious to see Ohio State's the rating for Saturday's game. Ohio State and Marshall on Fox. We already know Fox's 12 noon window does big numbers every single weekend. I understand the marketing. I understand all of that behind it, but trust me, I just wish y'all did that pregame and still put y'all best game at night. Now, NBC wouldn't like that. Wouldn't like it at all. Y'all are in this agreement with the Big Ten, so I know it's not going to happen, but I definitely miss some of them bigger Ohio State games being in prime time. Last but not least, stock down on Tennessee adding a 10% talent fee to ticket prices starting next year. Come on, man. Really? Ticket prices are already stupid high to begin with. This extra 10% is going to be money that's going to be going back to the players, or going to the players, not going back to the players, going to the players. So you're adding a 10% talent fee. 10%. Now, if a lot of these tickets were cheaper, it may be okay, may be understandable. But when tickets at face value are $100, $150 face value, or $200 face value, think about the people that's buying the tickets on StubHub and SeatGeek and all that. That's going to jack up their price too. Now, I say that $100 one person. Like, if I wanted to go to a game and it was $100, okay, like, I could do it. When you're bringing a family, and I have a family of 3, I got a youngster, so that the ticket's not really a thing, but it's my wife and I would have to buy a ticket. That's $200 plus that 10%, plus them taxes, plus them fees. You understand where I'm going? Bro, it's a car payment. And I know a lot of us have spent a car payment in price on tickets. We have done that. But come on. That's before the talent fee. Now there's a talent fee at Tennessee. Somebody said it's a David Sanders Jr. tax, and I'm not trying to say that it is or it is not, but it'd be kind of funny. I plan on making a joke about the McDonald's money, the money inside the McDonald's bags that Tennessee got caught with, but I don't need to, because, well, we all know that was foolish, and that money they utilized is still going to the players, just getting to them in a different way. Oh, gosh, 10% talent fee. I would much rather Tennessee do what Ross Bjork is probably going to do with Ohio Stadium and sell the naming rights to Ohio Stadium to make money that way, instead of doing the 10% talent fee on ticket prices. I would much prefer that for Neyland Stadium. And I know Tennessee fans are going to be really upset with if that happens. And I'm sure Ohio State fans will be really upset when that happens. However, I would much prefer that over using this avenue to get money for the players. That's all I got to say. Thank everyone for making Locked On Buckeyes their first listen of the day. For your second listen, find the Locked On College Football Podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. Find Locked On College Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at J707. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Buckeyes. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a hump day. We'll see you next time.